Texas.
And when?
October 24th, 1912.
And who were your parents?
S.J. Clark and Ida Clark. Anything from chopping cotton and corn and baling hay and working in the gardens and working on the field. We had, back in them days, they chopped cotton. They didn't take them whatever plows to plow it like we did. Plowed with mules, horses. I'll tell you, one time I was running a turning plow with 2 mules. I was holding them like that, and Mr. Will Woods come by and said, "Sam, you learning him a little young, aren't you?" He said, "Well, he's big enough to hold to the plow and to line so he can plow." And I think that's the reason I can't even straighten my hands out now. I've did that so long. But anyhow, that's the way we did. And then they had cultivators to cultivate we was turning it under with a turning plow. But we had cultivators to plow the cotton and corn and cane if it was in rows. And then sometimes they broadcasted the cane and it didn't have to be plowed, just broadcasted.
Was everyone doing cotton?
Cotton was the main thing. Now they don't even raise no cotton out there. Right. Well, we had a gin at Turnaville that went sometime we took it to Goforth. It had 2 gins, one at Goforth, one at Turnaville. And of course they had that Goforth store. Then we had the schoolhouse. We walked to school all the time. Didn't have no buses then. I worked in off the state school first.
Okay.
And we had a ball team, and I was a catcher, and Chief Ertley was an umpire behind the home plate. And he started Camp Swift down there, and I told him, asked him if couldn't give me a job down there, and he said, "Well, go down there and talk to Colonel Spence." And I did, and anyhow, I went down there to talk to Colonel Spence, and that guy was running. He said, "Well, Colonel's not here." I said, "What do you want?" I said, "Chief Ertley sent me down here to put my application in for the fire department." He gave me some papers to fill out, and I filled them out and gave it to him. And he said, when can you come back to work?" I said, "Anytime you want me to," and he said, "Come back tomorrow." I said, "No, give me 1 day so I can tell my boss up there, give me 1 day off, then I'll start to work." And that's how I got back on the fire department. I stayed there till it closed. Well, we trained after, when I went to Camp Swift, that's when Chief Ertley trained us down there. And it wasn't long till you knew what to do anyhow if you had a fire. But we didn't have many fires. But one time we went, and I was working on the tailgate. I hollered at the driver to stop. We done run out of hose. I said, "Back up," and we'll put it around that bar that we. And then I said, "Took off," and we took on off and hooked up. Anyhow, I told the chief what happened afterwards. He said, "Well, you're not supposed to pull them hose on the bar like that. You're supposed to go get you another 50 feet off another hose." I said, "Well, fire was burning and we didn't have time." And I said, "I didn't know that you're supposed to do that anyhow. I knew we run out of hose, and I knew we couldn't get no fire out if we didn't have a hose to pump, hooked up to pump." Me and Tommy Green was up on the building one here, and he said, "We better go down to the bottom and help them down there." And I said, "No, we're doing more good down up here than we would be if we were down there." So we stayed up there. But he was afraid that roof was going to fall in, but it didn't.
with the Buda Fire?
Well, I was one of the first. I guess I was, in fact, I'm the last one that's living. I guess it was there when we started, because all the rest of them's gone. And these boys they found out that I had been with the fire department, so they come wanted me to go over and have it to do that day. And so that's the reason they went over and took those pictures.
I see.
Anyhow, that's where I worked. You work 24 hours and off 24. So I would work 24 hours and work 24 for Luther Lundgren. He'd pay me pretty good money. Then I'd throw my shift again, and then get to come home. So that's how I made money enough to save to put down on a store when I bought the store. Well, we went together a good while before we were married, but we had parties out there. We went to parties. And finally got going enough, got married. And she was a good girl too.
I'm sure of that. Good partner. You had 2 children?
2 children, a boy and a girl. Grocery store. Yeah, we didn't have no clothes, just groceries. Well, located over here in Buda's brick building. The old brick building was a bank at one time, and it got robbed before we got it. But it was just that's how I learned to cut meat. Anyhow, we had an old butcher that helped us to start with, and when we first bought it, Leslie, my wife's brother, and me went together and bought it, the store. And then when he could cut meat pretty good, so after we got where I bought him out, well then I had a butcher come in there, W.T. Ackland, no. Frank Titman. He was an old German butcher, and he learned how to cut the meat. So then he quit. So I cut till we was sold out. I sold out to a Mexican at Kyle 40% off. Wife said she had to get out of there. She was kind of down in their back. It's hard to get what kind of people you wanted to help me run it, so we just closed it up. We had pretty good customers. Of course, we got stuck. We sold on the credit, and we got stuck on some bills. Never did get paid for. But most of them did. But I just when we quit, when we closed up, well, we didn't get no more money after that, because people didn't have more money back in them days. Not like they do now, anyhow. We was there 23 years, I think.
Okay.
From 47 to whatever that is. I think we was there 23 years.
69.
And then I worked for Mary and Gerald between 21 and 22 years.
Okay.
Buda Grocery and Market.
What was the old, you've seen a lot of changes in Buda.
Yeah,
When you came in here during the war years.
they ain't nothing like it used to be.
Tell us what it used to be
We had
like. We don't know.
We had 2 filling stations and had a bank at that time, but it didn't stay very long either, I don't think that bank stayed. But I think it's 3 grocery stores, Buda, Clem, and White's. Yeah, there was 3 grocery stores. And Buda Grocery and Market and myself, and a barber shop, and had 2 filling stations. Well, I guess the reason I stayed so much at the cemetery out at Goforth was Martin Cemetery. We was just kids, and we went up there and ever so often, and they'd have days to clean the cemetery. We'd take our hose up there and the rakes and clean it, chop it up and clean it off. And I guess we'd pile it up and burn it, I don't know, because didn't have no trash for people in. But that would be, I guess, about like they do when they cut grass now with a lawn mowers. But ever so often, you know, and of course all of my wife's kin folks are buried up there except two. And I know that's the reason I go up there so much. And I had an Uncle Nate that's buried out there. And now I've got some more kin folks now since Uncle Nate, they died I think one of them, Uncle Carl one day and Aunt Effie the next or something like that. But they was buried the same day. That was 1919 during the flu. Generally had rung a bell at the church if somebody died, so the ones could hear it, they'd go up there and help them dig a grave. Papa would send us boys up there, and maybe he'd go to start with, I don't know. But anyhow, we'd go up there and help them dig graves. Of course, I had two brothers older than me that go for lots before I did. But then, of course, my wife's always, let's go to the cemetery, you know, out there after her folks died. So I guess that's one reason that I go so much out there, and I still go. Well, I guess somebody had to take over. Of course, Robert Ham and Alvis Satterwhite, they both died, and they was both trustees or whatever you call them out there. And I was one of them. Mose Johnson's one of them. But anyhow, you might say after they died, Mo's still living, but after they died, I just go over when it needs cutting. Well, I'll go cut, get a boy to help. I got a riding mower. I get a boy that helps me. He's a weed eater. Let him weed eat, and I'll ride the mower.
Now, I just want to get this for the record. You're 96 now, 96 years old, and you're still the man who rides the mower and cuts out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was running the grocery store over here, and Mr. Jones come to me one evening and said, "Going to have a meeting tonight." So I told him, I said, "No," I said, "I don't know nothing about that cemetery. All I want you to do is come to the meeting." I said, "Okay, I'll come." So they appointed me as that night, got me on the board. And then that same night, they said, "Now we got Cecil on the board now, so now I'll make him president of the association." And one of them old men spoke up and said, "Mr. Jones," said, "what are you talking about?" "I know what I'm doing." He said, "I know what I'm doing." Said, "Okay, if you know what you're doing, well, go and do it." So anyhow, that's how I got on there, and that's how I got to stay with it all. Haven't got nobody to take my place yet, but we still got people on the board. Mm-hmm. I started here
in Buda.
On a gig at Buda, yeah. It was a one-horse deal, and had shaves, and a two-wheeler, had one seat, and that's how we come to school at Buda. Otis, Elmer, Clifton, and me coming on that gig. And a lot of people don't know what a gig is anyhow. Me and Papa went to Banchack Springs. Well, in a wagon, we had barrels in the wagon. I don't remember now, 2 or 3 barrels anyhow. And we filled them up, and it come up a cloud, and before we got home, we was going up a hill, and them old mules, they'd just slide. Papa just got out and said, "Well, we'll just go home. We'll leave the wagon here." So we unhitched them, went on home, left it there. So he said, I know we got water in the cistern now, so but we just went on home, left our wagon there at the side of the road. But them old mules, they'd just slip it, you know. So we didn't have no water out there. Our creeks was dry, and we had a little creek. If it rained, we had water in the creek. But if it don't rain, it didn't have any. And we had we did have a well, but you could draw so much out of it, and then it wouldn't. You couldn't draw no more. That's the reason we had to haul water. Well, I don't even remember them talking about it.
When Buda and Kyle went together in the school district?
May have, I don't know.
Okay. It heard some folks in Buda wanted to, some didn't. Same thing in Kyle, but
Well, some of them didn't like Kyle, and some of them did. I know that. I mean, I knew that.
was the
I don't know why some of them didn't like Kyle, but I like Kyle. They haven't done nothing to me. Changing roads and houses, more houses. That's the biggest thing, houses.
you know,
And more business places
sure.
here and out yonder too.
Are these changes something that you like seeing, or you'd rather never have seen?
I wished I'd have never seen it. It's getting too crowded. Well, the one at Goforth, I feel like I need on account of my wife's kin folks and my mother's kin folks out there too. See, she got that brother out there and his wife, and I got some cousins. I got some people named Goforth. It's buried out there. Julius Goforth and his wife. And I'll bet there's not I'll bet there's not anybody in Buda knew that or knows it now.
So how do you feel about your contribution to?
Well, I don't mind doing it as long as I can go. I'm willing to do it. 'Cause me and my wife used to go anyhow. She liked to go out there. I still like to go. Well, I think I'm lucky to be here that many years. I'll tell you, when I was a boy, I can remember walking me. I don't know, I had sore eyes or something, and they'd stick together, and they would walk me sometime, I guess several miles before I could ever get my eyes open. And I guess somebody would take me. I mean, there'd be somebody with me. So, but anyhow, I got over that. I don't know what caused it, but it was. They just stick together, and I couldn't get them open.
Did you just grow out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't stick together no more.
Yeah.